As we head into 2018, they're already at iPhone 10 or iPhone X, whatever you want to call it, for the latest edition. And maybe you did get a brand new electronic device for the holidays. We want to make sure your information is staying safe on those devices, and that's why we love to have Rebecca Herold in, our privacy professor, to talk about some of the hot stories that are coming to fruition when it comes to our privacy. And one we talked about a couple weeks ago with a national news story talking about a processor chip that's causing, wreaking some havoc with our devices, namely computers.
Yes.
And you wanted to not only talk about that, but kind of show us exactly what that means, because a lot of times we're not tech savvy and we don't actually know what pieces you're talking about or how it works.
Yeah, and talking about the iPhone, so iPhone has changed a lot over the years. Guess what hasn't? That processor chip has not changed basically in the design or the engineering of it since 1995. And if we're talking about that processor chip, this is my Raspberry Pi. These are like really cheap personal computers you can get and build yourself. But if you look right here at that big black part, and I don't know if I'm showing it.
Yep, we'll have right there. We'll have someone zoom on
so that is the processor chip that they're talking about.
It's like the magnet inside there.
It's almost the CPU. That is the brains of your computer. That's where all the processing goes on. So while that chip has actually changed over the years to make processing faster, the actual engineering of how you can actually get access into that CPU chip and into other parts of memory really has not changed much. And when you think about 1995, when these types of chips actually were created, just think about it. Very few were on the internet at that time. You had desktop computers. We had no smartphones. We didn't have Internet of Things. We weren't online all the time. I mean, you had maybe your computer in your work that was behind a firewall. So when they designed these chips, they really weren't thinking about somebody being able to get into the memory of those chips. And ever since then, they keep using the chip, but they haven't changed or redesigned it for security. So these chips impact basically anything that has any type of computing power. So not only your computers, your laptops, your tablets now, your smartphones, but also I want your viewers to understand a lot of copy machines, a lot of fax machines, a lot of printers, those do computing too. So those have those chips in there as well. So it's very important to know that this flaw allows folks who are connected to those devices to be able to have a pathway in to actually get to the memory that's there. And why is that a problem? Well, in that memory, when you're doing things like you're going to your bank and you're entering your user ID and password, all of that is stored often temporarily in memory, sometimes longer, depending upon how the application is created. But just imagine if you can get into the memory where you have things like your credit card numbers, your IDs and password, all that very sensitive information. That is what these flaws, and there's two ways to exploit these. In one, it's called Meltdown. Meltdown actually impacts Intel and Apple processing chips. So that allows people to get into what's called the kernel of the processor, and you can get into administrative areas. In the other one, that's called Spectre. It's fun why, I don't know why they give them these names, but these are the names. With Spectre, that applies to not only Intel and Apple processor chips, but also the ARM chips and the AMD. Now, the folks from AMD, these are the people who actually build the chips. You need to make sure that you know. AMD says, it's very low possibility. We haven't had that independently confirmed, so they might just be doing a little, PR. I don't know. But what you do need to make sure you do is go and download the update, the fix for this. There's software that you can make sure you download that gets applied on your computing device to keep people from getting to that sensitive information in the memory for these processor chips. So that's something, all your viewers, if you use any type of computing device at all, your smartphone, anything, make sure you keep your operating systems updated. So go out and download that, and make sure you sign up for automatic updates to your operating system. I know a lot of people never turn their smartphones off. And a lot of times they don't update their operating system to their smartphone either. So make sure
I would be one of those.
well, make sure you turn them off.
Not anymore, though.
Yeah, make sure you sign up for automatic system updates. Very, very, for everyone, businesses and the general public.
Well, speaking of turning something off, we learned with a personal story that there's something we need to be aware of as well.
Yes, so apps. So, you know, how many apps do you have on your smartphone?
Yeah, quite a few.
Quite a few, and how many do you actually use? The problem is so many people download apps and then they don't get rid of them when they don't use them.
That sounds like fun, or and then it just sits there.
And you know, a lot of people say, you know what's been really creepy? We were talking about something and all of a sudden I got an ad for it on Facebook, or I got a pop-up ad or something. Well, it turns out that a lot of these apps are using some software. It's from a vendor called Alfonso. But this software that a lot of these app creators are using actually goes in and turns on the microphone on your smartphones. So you need to make sure that you check and turn off those microphones. Otherwise, what researchers have found is they're actually listening all the time and can hear conversations and so on. And a lot of people say, oh no, they're not doing that. Well, yes, they are. And in fact, just here locally, one of my friends has a 12-year-old son. And she actually, or he came to her and showed her what this message was that he got on his smartphone after they'd been talking about saving money and talking about going and making a deposit in the bank. And I don't know if you have an image of it, but he actually got a message on his smartphone from some unknown sender, and it asked him if he wanted to make money by putting a sticker on his bicycle so that people could see this sticker. It was like $400 whenever he would ride his bike. And it was like, where did this come from? And so what they were thinking is, you know, the timing was weird because they had just been talking about making a deposit of a similar amount into the bank. So that's one of the things that
we should have that image if we're able to pop that up in the back. We have a couple images to show you what came up on the smartphone.
Yeah, there.
So you know what it looks like.
Exactly. So this is from 12-year-old Jack, and we removed other identifying information. But he sent this to his mom, and he said, look at what they sent me. And so it said, hey, you know, do you want to put a sticker on your bike or vehicle for $400? And it's like, where is this coming from? So then his mom answered him back, if you can show the next image. So what I love about Jack is he was suspicious right away. I don't think I should trust it. So,
a bunch of grammar mistakes.
Well, and you've talked about that before. There's things to look for, not only on the web, but also messages you might receive. There's going to be things, if it doesn't seem right, it probably isn't. But these are apps that are kind of going after what kids would be interested in downloading.
They actually do have some that are made for educational purposes. And I have the name of some of them, like one called Teeth Fixed to promote dental hygiene, and another one called Zap Balloons for math. Those are found to use this Alfonso software that goes in and turns on the microphone. So I want all of your viewers to know, if you aren't using apps, get rid of them off of your phone. If
you do have the app, so how do you shut that off?
Exactly. So you go into your settings, and it's different for different types of smartphones. But generally for an iPhone, you go into your settings and you go into privacy, and from there you can look at who actually has access to your microphone. And it'll show you a list of all your apps. And if you see that turned on or green, that shows that the microphone is on whenever you're using it. So, you know, this is for like Siri on your apps and so on. My friend said that in their home they use Alexa on their smartphones. They have a Dot, they have an Echo, and so on. So all of those are listening. So you need to make sure, turn off the microphone if you're not using it. Also, when you want to use an app, check their privacy notice, because you want to see if they're sharing that data with others. Oftentimes they are. And one other point about this, Jack is 12 years old. There's a federal law in the United States, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA. It requires any app creators, any website, anyone who's on the internet to get parental permission before they start sending children information or asking them for information or taking information from them. And I asked my friend, I said, did you get any type of request from any app? She's like, no, we did. They're just loading it. So that's another thing. The FTC just yesterday sent out a notice, and they're actually bringing some huge cases against app creators who are targeting children like that. So if you
We all need to be more diligent.
yeah, report them to the FTC. You could go to ftc.gov, and if this is happening to your kids, report them. They should not be doing that. They're breaking the law.
All right, well, Rebecca,
Very
always
good
great
tips.
information, making sure we're staying safe. If people want more information, because
Yes.
you're always putting out great data for us to keep in mind as we are working with our devices, because let's face it, they're a part of our lives these days. Where should they go for more details?
Yes, so they can go to my consulting site is privacyprofessor.org. And then I have a cloud-based services site, Symbus360.com, which is at the bottom there, and that's where I help businesses like these vendors need to come to me so I can tell them what they need to do to protect privacy better. But that is where people go, and I help them to set up security and privacy programs to protect people's information.
This is great. There's so much to know.
And we want to say congratulations again on the official proclamation of Privacy Day. On what day in January?
January 28th, officially Iowa Data Privacy Day. This is the 9th year that the governor of Iowa has proclaimed it. I'm very happy that they've always cooperated, and that's on a Sunday. So do things the week before and the week after.
Well, how about you practice your privacy every single day? But I always appreciate you coming in and let us know the latest details, Rebecca. You're going to get totally serious news heading your way next. You're watching CW Iowa Live.